Well, it's Friday, it's raining, and it's a very, very wet day. As you may have guessed it, things have been postponed a little bit. So we're expected to get about 1.5 inches today, at least that's what they said. We might get a little bit more, we might get a little less. It rained all day yesterday, and it's going to rain all day tomorrow. Now, a couple different people have asked about the process and a little bit more about the permits, including someone who left a comment yesterday asking to talk a little bit about that part of it. So I decided, you know what, today would actually be a good day to do that kind of stuff. All right, so if I go through the timeline really quickly, I started looking for property back in December, and I fell in love with this property towards the beginning of January. Did my offers and everything. Finally closed about February 28th. It finally closed February 28th, so it was at the end of the month. Then I had to find somebody to do septic designs and to inspect and see if I could have a septic. At least according to somebody at the city, they said if I had to do sewer through this property, that it'd be like 100 grand or maybe even more, and that's kind of ridiculous. So anyway, a little bit on the septic. Got somebody that was recommended and everything. They are wetlands certified. As you guess it, I do live somewhere where the ecological system is pretty important, so having somebody that is certified in wetlands and everything is a plus. Now, I want to say that she was $2,300 or $2,400 was the cost. Now, that's going to vary depending on who you hire and where you live and everything. I've heard that it could go up quite a bit from there, and some could be just a little bit less from that. And then on top of that, I had to also pay the contractor $900 to come out and dig all the test holes and stuff. Anyway, fast forward a little bit, it took several weeks for me to finally get everything. They did the complete drawing. This is actually it. And they will do like where your septic is going to be, where your house is going to be, the drain fields, pretty much everything. Plus, they'll give you like the instructions for the system, what kind of system to do, and blah blah blah, and then I turned that all in. Now for the permit part of it, gotta grab my receipts here. So for the permit part, the septic eval install is $1,175 to the county, and this permit has to be done before the city will do any other permits. So I was able to drop off my building permits and stuff, but they wouldn't touch them until pretty much the other one was done. And this was towards the end of April at this point when I started to turn these in. Now I want to say it took a little over another 6 weeks for me to get the septic permit. So then I was able to take that down to the city and get that stuff started. So to the city, for my cost for the building permit, now this is going to vary greatly depending on where you live, like I mentioned with everything. It also depends on the type of structure, so whether it's a stick-built, a manufactured home, these permits will all cost a little bit differently. And because this is a manufactured home, the permit is actually quite a bit cheaper compared to the stick home one. Plus, the stick one home required a few other permits. I don't remember what they were, but I didn't have to deal with those ones at least, thankfully. But anyway, this one was $910.28, and that's what that was. It's also based on value, too. So the higher the value of the home, the more you're going to pay for that permit. Now, as for the utilities, I also paid that same day to the city $1,750, and that is for the application and the install of a water meter, and that's up to 40 feet from the nearest water meter. So if you don't have a neighbor within the 40 feet, you're going to pay quite a bit more. Luckily, where they are going to put in the meter, there is a neighbor who actually owned this land before I bought it. Now the downside is that the city is going to be making me get water from up there, and the power, they're going to be making me get power from the other road. So I have to do 2 trenches now, and that does add a little bit of cost. Now, if we go into the electric a little bit, originally the plans, the house was going to be on the top of the property, but there was a lot of different things, and I was told I had to get it surveyed because someone did backfill and all that stuff. But anyway, the electric company, they said they quoted $27,000 for me to have electric up here, and that was crazy. That was more than twice my budget that I had for it. So in the end, we ended up moving the house to where I showed where the foundation is starting, so towards the beginning of the property. and that was able to lower a lot of costs between all the driveway, all the graveling, the electric, because that's the most expensive of anything. So that dropped it almost in half, just moving the house down there for the electric. The downside is that we do have to trench further for the water, but the water is a fraction of the cost to run electric. So at least that is going to save a little bit, even though it's going to be a hassle, and it's still going to end up costing me just a little bit more. And to be a little bit more precise, the electric quote came in at $15,250. And again, this is also going to vary greatly because I've heard of people in the area that have spent way more than that, and I've heard of people spending a lot less. But out of that 15,000, just the transformer is almost 10,000 alone, and they told me that COVID did a lot of that. It took the prices way the heck up. So most of that cost for me is the darn transformer that I have to get. All right, so back to the permit process. So we dropped all that off, we paid all that stuff. All right, now if we fast track and we get my latest permit, this was issued on July 23rd. And then a week later, the guys were here and they started and they did what I showed you in the last video, the start of the foundation, the start of the graveling for the driveway and all of that. Then I had to have the city come back out, the same guy for the permit. He came out the other day and he looked at everything, said everything's good. Now we can do the pouring of the concrete. But as you would guess, with this much rain, we don't really want to be pouring concrete in this, especially if we're getting a couple of inches of it. So it'll probably be postponed until some point next week. Now my daughters and I, we're going to go camping here in a couple of days, so I'm not sure if I'm going to be here to film any of those updates. I'm kind of hoping I am, but I don't know for sure. Now I have a little over 3 acres and I paid $92,000 for it. That's what I ended up getting them to bring the price down to. And compared to some of the properties around me, it's a pretty good deal compared to what you might find somewhere like Arizona or somewhere. I paid a lot. So it really just depends on where you live in the world. And there's definitely people that's going to pay a heck of a lot more closer to the city than what I paid for this one. Now, I know right now the real estate market is kind of wild, especially depending on where you live. I know like closer to like Seattle, Olympia area and stuff. I live a couple hours from there, and the housing market there is ridiculous compared to like over here where it's a bit more rural. There's not much here, and I can get I could get land for a fraction of what you can get one itty bitty little lot there in the city. And then we don't even talk about the permitting that you got to deal with when you're in the city. I thought mine was a hassle, but I've heard of people spending several months waiting for like each permit and stuff. Now I looked at houses for sale, and the ones that were like in the cities and everything, it was ridiculously priced. They were extreme fixer-uppers. And if you can imagine living in a place like this, if you don't manage your home, it falls apart. It's going to rot. It's going to mold. And a lot of these homes have a lot of that damage. So I'd probably sink another 100 grand just fixing it up or getting it up to code and stuff just to live in. So that's why I decided that, you know what, I'm going to do the land. I'm going to do the manufactured, which will be brand new, and it's the newer designs with like the solar ready and all that stuff. It's one of the newer e-built ones, so it's far more energy efficient. Plus I paid for like the extra insulation and all that stuff being in a colder climate. And the prices for the homes changed drastically everywhere too. Like the same exact home I have, I saw it for 40,000 less when like somewhere at a dealer in like Arkansas, but then I saw it for like 30,000 more at a dealer that's in northern Washington. And then so it just really depends on where you go, what kind of home you're getting, the insulation with it, what dealer, what their markups are, everything in between. But make sure if you do go this route that you get a decent reputable dealer, and you get one that is going to give you all the cost up front, or they're going to bundle all of it into one. So I'm talking about transportation, permitting, all of that stuff. A lot of people don't realize that just moving a manufactured home is a lot of money. Like I've seen people spend over 10 grand to move a manufactured home from like one lot to another one. And it's the same thing when you buy one, and the one that I'm getting is coming like 300 miles away. So you can imagine how many permits it needs, and plus that distance and everything. So you want to have all of that already into the price so you don't have any crazy crap happen afterwards. Now, personally, I ordered the Hey Jude of the Tempo series, so it's kind of a budget one. It's a little bit more cookie cutter. You don't have as many options with it. And I also didn't do very many options. I wanted a tad bit more basic. I didn't need to spend a lot of money. The biggest thing that I wanted was land, but I wanted a house still big enough for my daughters and I, still have an office. And I also had a 5th bedroom flex option. So you could either have one or a second really large living room, or you could turn that living room into a smaller family room and then have an extra 5th bedroom, or what I am turning into my office. And that was the option that I chose for that one. Now, for those who are interested, once the house gets in, I will do a full tour of it and everything. I'll do a tour before I start moving stuff in. I'm going to try and hopefully actually film the stuff coming in, like them bringing the home in, placing it, installing it, all that stuff. Because I know a lot of people are actually really curious. I was really curious, and I want to see that stuff. So I will try and get some of that. I hope I'll be here when they're doing it, and I'm going to try to make sure I am. And then for anybody that wants to see that, yeah, I'll do some updates on the house itself. I'll show you a tour of it, show you what you get, what options I chose compared to what it would have been if I didn't do the options. With this one, though, it's going to be mostly what you see in mine is what you'll mostly get, besides maybe like a few colors or a few little tweaks here and there. Now, this video is supposed to be only a couple of minutes. It has gone a little bit longer than what I originally planned. If you are actually still watching after I rambled on all that time, cool, thank you. Consider liking and subscribing and following me during the journey. You know, we haven't gotten much done yet, but we're going to do a lot of farming. I plan to grow everything I can. I'm going to try to work on greenhouses, tunnels. I'm going to try and get some equipment. I really need a small tractor, and I kind of want to build like one of those, what is it called, Wallapini or whatever greenhouses, the ones in the ground. I got a lot of hills and stuff that would actually be really perfect to just dig into the slope and build one of those. And that would be easier for growing too. I also plan on orchards, animals. We're going to have chickens and stuff. But if you're interested in that stuff, definitely give a follow. I'm going to try to do more updates more often. Like I said in the last video, at least one video a week of what's going on, what's happening, and just go from there. And a lot of this has been a learning experience for me, and I'm still learning a lot as I go, especially when it comes to like the homesteading, and I'm going to be learning a lot too. And I love being able to share things that I learned too. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.